applause.
Is the microphone on?
Yeah, I think so.
Is it? Okay, cool. Alright, so before I get started, just real quick, how many of you guys are already familiar with what I do? Just like raise your hands real quick. Oh, wow, okay. Alright. So, what I'm going to do today is a very informal speech. I'm just going to share my journey, everything that I've done to this point in terms of health and fitness and veganism, and also 5 very important things that I learned on my journey. I'm going to be sharing those as well. And then I'm going to finish off with a Q&A. So please don't be shy, just ask your questions and I'll be more than happy to answer as much as possible. I actually have to catch a flight like super quick after the speech, so I'm going to try to keep it as short as possible so that we can have more fun with the Q&A, and then we can have a little chat and take some pictures afterwards if that sounds okay. So, I'm going to share my story. So it started, I'd say around, 5 years ago, the term vegan was introduced into my life. I've never heard about veganism before. I've heard about vegetarianism and people who still ate dairy and eggs, but they didn't eat meat. And that to me was, it was weird. I thought that they were just like, a weird cult or something. And I just kind of didn't really think about it that much. But vegan is a word that I never ever came across in my entire life, like before 5 years ago. So the way that I heard about veganism is actually that the impossible happened. My brother, who is 2 years younger than me or 3 years younger than me, he went plant-based or fully vegan. And what happened was he came back to the house in Spain. We're having like a family meetup, and he just announced that he was going vegan. And I asked him, what is that? And he said, I'm not going to eat meat, I'm not going to eat dairy, I'm not going to eat eggs, I'm only going to eat vegetables. And I was like, what? Like what? I didn't understand. It was crazy to me because like we grew up with so much meat in our family. Our family's half Brazilian, half Norwegian. The Norwegian side comes with a lot of dairy and eggs, and then the Brazilian side is a lot of barbecues at the weekends, and chicken hearts and rump steaks and sausages, all that stuff that is pretty weird to be honest. But yeah, we grew up eating meat every single day for every single meal, and on the weekends without fail. For, 18 years in a row, we had barbecue 2 times a week with huge pieces of meat. So me hearing that my brother was going vegan was something that I just couldn't understand. I got, I just like felt really, offended by it because he was kind of like rejecting the family tradition of eating barbecues in the weekends and that kind of stuff. I remember we sat down and he had rice and a salad while everyone else was having some, delicious sausage and chicken hearts. So good. I really don't understand how I was eating chicken hearts, to be honest. It's super weird. But yeah, so that was the first time I ever heard about it. He wasn't pushy. He wasn't like, trying to tell the rest of the family or trying to tell me to go vegan. He was like super nice about it. And he just watched a documentary called Forks Over Knives, and he is super into science. And he thought that it was the right step to take for bettering his health, and he was trying to present that to us in a very discreet way. And I just didn't want to have anything about it. I was like disappointed. I thought he had developed this eating disorder. I didn't know what was going on with him. I really was really skeptical, and I took it personally. I made fun of him a lot. I criticized him. I still do, but in a loving way. But yeah. So that's how I got introduced to it, and I think 2 years went by without me even caring. I was like, you do you, whatever, be a hippie if you want to. I'm gonna be here in the gym eating my chicken hearts and making some gains. So that went on for 2 years, and what happened next was not because of any outside influence at all. Me and my girlfriend at the time, Catherine, decided to watch this documentary called Earthlings. How many of you guys have watched Earthlings in this room right here? Yeah, there you go, quite a lot of you. Definitely not something that is easy to watch. It's hard to watch, and like I don't know how we decided to do it, but we just we figured why not just give it a try, because it's supposed to debunk the whole animal industry. So we did. We sat down one night in our tiny London apartment with our laptops and went on YouTube and watched Earthlings, and it was terrifying. It was graphic, and I never experienced anything like that before. In terms of the emotional feeling that I got when I was watching this, there were close-ups of pigs right before going into slaughter. There were dogs and all kinds of animals being slaughtered, and it just felt super wrong what we were doing, and I couldn't believe that I didn't even want to look at that. I just ignored it because I didn't want to know. But now that I watched it, I couldn't unsee it. It was stuck with me. And right after the movie was finished, I didn't know what to do. Me and my girlfriend Catherine were looking at each other, debating whether or not to maybe decrease our meat consumption, maybe go for grass-fed, maybe it's more ethical. But the more we thought about it, we realized that at the end of the day, we're still going to have to kill an animal that doesn't want to be killed to consume its flesh. And apparently there are other options and other foods you can eat instead. So we just felt like we had this responsibility, and we really had to explore an alternative way of eating that didn't promote animal exploitation, as we just saw in this documentary. And at that time, I was super scared of what would happen to my body. I didn't know if it could be actually healthy. I didn't know if I was going to be able to maintain my muscle mass, because I had been training in the gym super hard for 2.5 years or something, and I worked super hard to build muscles, and I didn't want to let it all go to waste. But I felt like I had to give it a shot anyways, just for the animals. So I did, and in the beginning I searched on Google trying to find examples of other vegan bodybuilders out there doing amazing things, and 0 people came up. So I was pretty much on my own, and I think there was one guy in his 50s or something, and he didn't really, he wasn't, a really big guy. He was probably, quite a lot thinner than I was already. So I was just like, oh damn, I'm gonna lose all my gains. So, I'm okay with that. As long as the animals are safe, I'm okay. So to compensate, in the beginning, I was just like, okay, just to try not to lose all my muscle mass, I'm gonna eat as much as possible. So that's what I started doing. I started eating like crazy, probably like 6,000 calories a day worth of vegan Pizza Hut. Apparently, like they do, we found out that we could order pizza and just ask for the meat and the cheese to be removed. So easy trick. And obviously I did not disappear. I didn't lose weight. What happened is I gained weight way too quickly, obviously with all that pizza, but if it's vegan, it must be, you have to lose weight, I thought, but definitely not. So what happened was that, I was still training super hard, and what happened was the opposite. My strength increased. I could bench press more, I could squat more, deadlift more. Within 2 weeks, my digestive issues went away. I actually, it's a bit graphic, but I suffered from constipation quite a lot, so I wouldn't go to the bathroom for like a week sometimes. So like once a week going to the bathroom, definitely not a healthy thing. And that was like, my digestion was completely fixed after just like 2 weeks on a vegan diet. Even if it was a Pizza Hut based vegan diet, it still worked, still fixed my issues. So yeah, I mean, after that I just realized that it's possible to gain weight, it's possible to get stronger on the vegan diet. I'm doing it. I did lose muscle mass. I did get some extra body fat from all the pizza, but that's okay. So I just started, realizing that there was not much of a difference, and I actually felt a lot better. I was progressing even quicker. I put on muscle quicker than I did before going vegan, which was mind-blowing to me. I didn't understand why no one else was sharing this information. So what I decided to do was to share this information myself online. I started to share my journey on YouTube mainly, a little bit on Instagram, and that's how I got started in social media, and things just grew from there, because like I said, there was no one else doing it apart from Vegan Gains, and I'm a lot nicer than Vegan Gains, so that worked out for me. I'm just kidding. I like Richard. But yeah, that's how I started. So everyone started finding me through Google searches, YouTube, just like when people typed vegan, like my name popped up instantly. So I just like build up a following like that. And finally I was able to get a lot of exposure on magazines, newspapers, different channels. So it was a lot of stuff going on that I wasn't expecting from going vegan at all. So that was a really, really cool benefit. But yeah, the rest is just, I've been doing this for 3 years now, and still, making some gains. Didn't disappear yet, and yeah, here we are today. So yeah, I wanted to share 5 quick things, real quick, that I feel are some of the most important things that I've learned on my journey in terms of vegan health and fitness. So I'm gonna use my phone as a tool here to remember those points. I'm not a great speaker, but this will have to do. Number 1, so 5 things I learned on my journey. The number 1 point is that protein is abundant. And protein is something that I get so frustrated talking about. It's so annoying. It's like every single day I get at least 10 emails or comments asking about, how do you get your protein on a plant-based diet? And I thought that, in 2018, people, finally catch on and realize that there is protein everywhere. But no, everyone still thinks that it's impossible to get protein from a plant-based diet. And like they ask me how I'm even alive. It's mind-blowing. So we have a lot of work to do still. And that's why I'm keeping trying to spread the message as much as possible. But yeah, protein is abundant. This is one of the things that I learned really early on. I realized that I didn't need to eat 2-3 pizzas a day to keep up my weight and get protein. I could actually just eat basic whole foods like rice and beans and get all my protein intake from whole foods. No need to buy mock meats or that kind of stuff to get enough protein to build muscle. Not at all. And yeah, I mean, for you guys wondering, wondering where do you get your protein from, I'm going to go through some sources real quick, but it's mainly grains and legumes. Those are the staples, and then we have like tofu, tempeh, seitan sometimes. And just like vegetables in general have protein, like broccoli and spinach and mushrooms are pretty packed in protein, so adding those into your diet will really increase your protein level. And I think the problem is that people have just been brainwashed over the decades about how much protein we actually need. It's all marketing. Like, I've tried a very low protein diet, I've tried a very high protein diet, and I've seen more results going on the lower side than the higher side. So obviously there's a lot more science and research to be done. If you're wondering exactly how much protein you need, no one knows, and at least not for optimizing performance. We know how much we need to thrive and survive as humans, but we don't know how much exactly is necessary for each individual person for building muscle optimally or losing fat and retain as much muscle as possible. There are some guesses out there, but it's definitely lower than people think. And the lower in calories you go, the more protein you need, not to waste your muscle away, but that's a completely different story. So yeah, all right, second point, we're done with the first one. So the second thing I wanted to discuss is that we have to focus as much as possible on eating whole plant foods. But this is something that I did not care too much about in the beginning, obviously by eating all the pizza. But immediately when I switched from my pizza diet to a whole food plant-based diet, like my fat just like melted away. So I had very little body fat. I was still performing amazingly and making gains. So in terms of health and fitness, whole foods is definitely the way to go. You really have to focus on eating a lot of whole foods. It's fine to include some mock meats here and there, some burgers, some treats, but just like try to add as much of these, awesome leafy greens, vegetables, fruits, grains, nuts, seeds, legumes, all that stuff. Try to add as much of that into your diet as possible, because that is going to benefit you in ways you can't even imagine. So for health and fitness, whole foods is definitely the way to go. It's got all the, by eating this way, there is no deficiency that will, get to you, apart from like vitamin B12. That is the only thing you should supplement with. The rest is completely abundant when you're eating whole foods. And that is why a lot of people back in the days who were going vegan for ethical reasons, which is amazing, but they didn't really care too much about their health, they didn't do the research necessary, and they're just eating Oreos and French fries. Obviously that is not a great diet, and you put yourself at risk for deficiencies that way. So yeah, like when you eat whole foods, you almost don't even have to worry about how much food you're eating. You can just eat whatever you want, and as long as it's on its original form. By the way, for you guys who don't know what whole foods means, it's not the store Whole Foods, it's food in its original form. So instead of bread, you're eating, well, actually, no, never mind, screw that. All right, so instead of soy yogurt, you're eating soybeans, for example. So whole foods, foods in its original state. Basically, if you're eating that, there is no way you are gonna put on unnecessary amounts of weight. It's really easy to stay trim, and as long as you're choosing higher protein sources from grains and legumes, you're gonna be able to build muscle as well if that is your goal. So yeah, stick to whole foods. All right, so the third thing I wanted to discuss is a bit of a controversial one, and it's that it's difficult to go plant-based or vegan in the beginning, both for diet side of things and social side of things. A lot of vegans make it seem like it's super easy to do and so much fun. It's all fun and games, but it really isn't for a lot of people. I just think about the amount of people who are busy working, super long days, and they get back, they don't have time to cook or anything. It's difficult to get time to learn what you can eat and then actually have the time to make the foods that you learn that you have to eat. So it is difficult in the beginning. I remember when I started out on this journey, I spent probably like 10 hours in the first week of going vegan, like in the grocery store, like running around checking labels, checking how much protein there was in everything, making sure there was no dairy and eggs in the products that I was eating. It was a bit of a nightmare, and I understand that now the labeling system is a lot better than when I started, but it's still challenging because most of us, the average person, does not know that much about nutrition. It's difficult to find the time and be dedicated to learning about how to eat in a healthy way, but it's super important. So that's one thing, but the other thing is the social aspect of things. That is something that one of the biggest enemies to veganism is social pressure and just like people not being supportive of you. This is very common, and I get emails all the time from people who are under 18 saying that their parents will never allow them to eat meat, eat vegan. They're forced to eat animal products, and the parents are really not supportive of what they're doing. And this also happens to adults who go to family meetings, and then they get a lot of crap for the diet that they're eating. So it's difficult to navigate that, but it's also important to know that you're doing this for you. In the end of the day, like, you want to be healthy, you want to live a long life, and you want to have the energy to do whatever you want to do. So it's about you in the end. And I know it's difficult. It's super hard to get accepted or rejected. It's super hard to get rejected from your closest friends and family. But you just have to accept it's part of the journey. And the best thing I found that works in those situations is just not be preachy, not tell people what to do, just like lead by example, and just have fun, pretend that you don't care, which is hard because if you're eating with someone who's in the same table with someone who's eating meat, that it's it can be difficult to pretend like everything is fine because you may feel like it's not fine. But it's one of those things that you have to kind of like play a strategic game to be able to show the way for other people, to inspire them. And I've dealt with this in my own life as well. There was a family member of mine that since I went vegan, or a couple of years after I went vegan, but like he just like cut all contact. He doesn't want to make eye contact when I enter the room. He'll leave the room, like he'll just like, completely ignore me and just like hates the choice that I made to, not eat meat and dairy and eggs. So he took it so personally that he would rather not see his own family for the rest of his life just because someone is doing something that he feels goes against his own values. So it's really emotional. Like for a lot of people, it's really difficult to, if you're doing something for yourself, some people take it as an insult and think that you are criticizing them and judging them and, thinking that they're murderers or, whatever. So it can be really difficult, but, you can't really do anything about it. It's one of those things that you have to accept, that some people will just reject you and dislike you, and that's just the way it is. You can't really please everyone. The most important person to please is yourself, so take care of yourself first. All right, so the fourth thing that I want to discuss that I learned a lot, especially in the last year, is move every day. So obviously the way that I move my body is a lot through lifting weights in the gym, but for, I think, almost a whole year now, I've been able to walk for, I think, in between half an hour to 1 hour and a half, almost every day, at least 5 times a week, every single day without fail. And that has done so much for my mental health and just clarity in general. It's just like it's almost like meditation. You go out in the fresh air, you get some vitamin D from the sun, it just makes you feel super good. And that is one of the things that I had to learn the hard way. I never enjoyed walking before, like my girlfriend, or my wife now, she has to drag me out of the house to walk in the beginning, and I just was in horrible shape. But now, I just can't live without it. So, walking is the number one thing that you guys should all be doing. And I know here in the Netherlands, everyone's biking around everywhere, super happy, super fit. That's why you guys are looking so fantastic. But in general, in the US, for example, no one is moving around. Everyone's in their cars, doing the drive-through. Even when they're going to go to the pharmacy to buy their drugs to treat their diseases, they're even driving there and taking the medicine out the window in the drive-through. So there's really a need for more movement in the world, and it depends from country to country, but it's super important. And it doesn't matter what you do, as long as you enjoy it. Just try to move every single day. Our bodies are meant to be moving around, and we're just sitting down in an office like a lot of us are doing, and just hunching over and just moving our fingers. And that's fine, you get strong, muscular fingers, but what about the rest of the body? It's important to take care of that as well. And walking is the one thing that our bodies are most adapted to doing, and it seems to be the healthiest form of exercise for longevity and for anything that you're doing. But if you enjoy weightlifting or running, do that instead. Do whatever you can sustain for life, basically. Make a habit out of it. So move every day. And the last thing that I want to touch on is that it's not about perfection, it's about progress. And when you go on social media and you type whatever, vegan fitness model or vegan bodybuilding, and you look at the videos, you see people eating super clean whole foods and super boring foods that a lot of people just can't wrap their heads around, and they just can't focus on eating this way because it's so different from the processed diet that a lot of us have been taught to eat in the past decades. So it's a big change, and it's not about being perfect. A lot of people jump into the vegan lifestyle and just eat whole plant foods and salads and broccoli and that kind of stuff, and then they just feel horrible because they don't know what they're they just don't get enough calories because they are not educated about which foods to choose. So it's not about being perfect and doing everything as good as you can from the get-go and start tracking your calories and macros. It's not about that. It's about gradually increasing the amount of healthy foods, gradually learning more and more about nutrition online from websites like nutritionfacts.org and that kind of stuff. Just gradually improve day by day, week by week, whenever you have time. We all have time. We all have 24 hours in a day, so we all can find some time to research a little bit on YouTube or on different websites for 15, 20 minutes. That's all you need. It's really, really quick. And just focus on just creating healthy habits. That's the most important thing. And habits take a very long time to create. The walking habit that I created, which only came after, I'd say I had to walk for 8 months, almost every day to be able to, just kind of feel like I need it in my life. And it's the same with diet and everything. It's you have to try to eat as much healthy whole foods as possible. And at a certain point, after a long time of doing so, you'll just crave it. and it sounds unrealistic. It sounds like BS, but it's true. It really is fantastic what like kind of forced repetition can do to your body and what you crave and how you feel. So yeah. Anyways, those were the 5 things that I learned that I think is important to share with you guys. I hope it wasn't too boring. But now we're going to get to the fun place, which is going to be a Q&A, where I think you guys will really enjoy this because I think a lot of you guys will have the same question. And, I'll try to answer to the best of my ability. Don't be shy, just raise your hands and we'll get started.
Yes, so you can raise your hands and I will walk around. And maybe it's also good to know we're live on Facebook, so if you have any question, you can comment, and the best questions in the comments we will also ask you. So I start here in front, and maybe also in the back. If you have any questions, please let me know.
Hi, I'm Ruben, and I've been following you for a little bit. And first of all, I want to congratulate you and Catherine and the baby.
Oh yeah, thank you.
Second of all, I've been researching oil a little bit.
Oil?
And I wanted to know if you've got some good alternatives to oil, because cooking in water doesn't work out all the time.
Yeah. Okay. So oil is an interesting topic, and I think a lot of people struggle with this when they are trying to be as healthy as possible and eat a whole food plant-based diet. Oil is not a whole foods. Obviously, it's highly processed. So a lot of doctors recommend decreasing the amount of oil that you intake to be as healthy as possible. So you do not need oil. It's tasty. You can have it once in a while as a treat. You can have it every day if you want to, if you don't like. But to be as healthy as you possibly can, you do need to avoid it at certain times. I mean, it has a lot of omega-6s. It does seem to cause inflammation, some oils more than other. But yeah, like the tips that I can give you that are most practical is just like you said, use water instead of oil. And it's kind of like a skill that you have to develop, but it is possible to just use water. And maybe get maybe a better pan or something to that doesn't stick too easily. But the trick is just to add a little bit of water, and once that water evaporates, just keep replacing it with more water. And that way, like I've cooked almost like everything in water before, and I've never had a problem. It's a bit difficult in the beginning, but once you get used to it, it's magical. It's really good.
Does it answer your question?
Yes.
Yes? Okay, thanks. Any other questions? Yes, over here. Please, say your name.
All right, my name is Jasper. I've been following you for like 3 years or something, maybe a little longer. Like for the last couple months, I haven't too much. I'm sorry about that, but I was just wondering because I think quite a few people know the video where you were on the Fruitarian day, or I think was
right.
it, or was it a day?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, aside from the fact that it was pretty fun.
Yeah, it was a week. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I've been trying it for a while as well. I've been able to be doing it straightforward, say 2 weeks without any cheats.
Mm-hmm.
But I was just wondering what your opinion was about like building muscle on a fruitarian diet.
Mm-hmm.
You spoke a little bit about it in your video, but
Mm-hmm.
what is your, is it possible?
Yeah.
What do you think about it? Because there's
Yeah.
not much.
Awesome, yeah. Okay, making gains on a fruitarian diet, okay. Actually, I did not do a week of fruitarian. It was raw vegan, so I did eat vegetables and leafy greens and sprouted lentils and that kind of stuff. So I never tried a pure fruitarian diet apart from that one 10,000 calorie fruit challenge that I did that one time. Never again. Horrible. But yeah, I think on a fruitarian diet, I would say that it really depends. If you're new to lifting and you don't have like a big amount of muscle mass, you should be able to build muscle on a fruitarian diet as long as you have enough calories. But for someone who's built muscles for 5 or 10 years and then switching to a fruitarian diet, I think it might be a little bit, I haven't tried this out, so I can't say for sure, but my mind says that it's going to be a lot more challenging. I don't even know if it's possible. But on a raw vegan diet, where you can sprout lentils and just eat mushrooms and that kind of stuff, it's a lot easier to get high amounts of protein. And obviously, if you're training super hard or you're an athlete, you're gonna increase. You want more protein than the average sedentary person. So incorporating sprouted lentils and that kind of stuff is really a good way to increase that. More nuts and just from fruits by itself, you're still gonna get like 10% protein or something, which is still completely fine for health and for different kinds of fitness. I'm sure it's good as well. But to build muscle optimally, I can't tell you whether or not it'll work. Let me know though.
Okay. Any other questions here? Yes. Okay.
You guys doing okay? It's not too boring?
No.
Please say your name.
Hi, John. I'm Katarina.
Yeah.
I have a little addition to the oil cooking.
Yeah.
We recently got air fryer. That's an amazing thing. You just cook with hot air, and we do like chicken wings, like from cauliflower, and air fries, just without oil. You just marinate in water. It might be an additional answer.
Yeah.
But I wanted to ask you, what did happen with your parents' diets when you switched to veganism? Because my parents say they limited a little bit the amount of meat they eat, but they increased the dairy and eating a bit. But I'm not living there anymore, so I'm not influencing that much. But how is it at your family?
All right. Thanks.
Yeah, good question. So when my brother went vegan, it was 2 years before I went vegan, and at that point they were completely following a meat-based diet. But slowly they were open to listening to my brother's science background and like all those health benefits of eating less meat. So what they did was, probably after a year or something, they started eating plant-based for 5 days of the week. And then for 2 days, they'll still have the precious 2 days of the Brazilian barbecues. They had to be there, couldn't sacrifice that. So yeah, that's what they did in the beginning. Just for health reasons, they wanted to try to limit animal protein. And it seemed to work really well. And I thought that at that point I wasn't vegan, so I thought they were kind of crazy, but whatever. Brainwashing from my brother, I thought. But like when I switched to a vegan diet though, that is probably, exactly the same time that my parents switched. And I think it was just because I didn't switch because of health. It was because of ethics, and I saw what was going on, and I wanted to minimize my impact in terms of animal cruelty. And I think that kind of resonated with them a little bit more than the health side of things that my brother was explaining to them. So I think that is a reason why they finally jumped over, is because they saw my reasoning behind it, and then they actually looked at the ethical aspect of things and decided that, okay, we should really try to go full plant-based as well. So that's how it happened. Very lucky situation, very easy to convert them, it wasn't an issue. But yeah, right now, like my whole family is 100% vegan, and everyone's thriving, so it's awesome.
Wow. Thank you. We have another question, and it's on Facebook, and it's also about family, but not about your parents.
Okay.
It's a question of Gaby van Bieden, and first of all, congratulations with the baby.
Thank you.
And then she asks you, what do you say to people who think you can't raise your baby or child vegan? What do you do? What do you say to them? Yeah.
Luckily, I haven't been asked that question yet, but I'm sure I will be when the baby is born. And we're on social media, so obviously there's a lot of hate comments and criticism coming there. But the thing is, like, a lot of people ask, why would you force your child or your baby to be vegan when it can't even make up its own choice? And obviously, like, from our point of view, if you're vegan already, you know that it's not necessary, and it's even healthier to not add that. So why would you instead you should focus on making or giving the baby vegan food until it's old enough to make up its own mind whether or not it wants to eat meat or whatever. So in terms of science, there is so many like documentaries and research pointing that the plant-based diet is healthy for all stages of life. There's like famous pediatricians that say it's super good for while pregnant and for infants as well. So I just don't see a reason to incorporate animal products. There's not one reason. Yeah, zero. Hope that answers the question.
I think that's clear.
Yeah. Okay.
Thanks.
Cool.
All right. Anybody else in this room who wants to ask a question? Yeah, over there. You can stand up. Yes, please tell us your name and ask your question.
My name is Baruch. Also, John, I was wondering what is your go-to snack, like maybe in between meals or when you go to the gym or when you get back? Like, just what is your go-to snack away from protein bar?
Yeah. Okay. My go-to snack is definitely fruits like clementines, or I'll chop up some pineapple or any kind of fruit. Basically, I just love eating any kind of fruit. And apart from that, sometimes if I'm trying to shred down really quickly, I'll prepare some cauliflower, some carrots, some celery, and just chop it up into small pieces, put them inside a Tupperware, keep it in the fridge, and whenever I feel hungry, I just go snacking on them, and that will always fill me up for a couple hours or something. So that's a really good tip for anyone who's looking to lose weight and feel full without adding a lot of calories. But yeah, just basically fruits and vegetables is always a go-to snack for me. Yeah.
Yes, that answers your question. Okay, great.
All right, we have time for a couple more questions.
Yes,
So
maybe on this side. Anybody else? Any questions?
here, up front.
All right, please stand up and say your name and ask your question.
Hi, my name is Jeremy. I'm myself a CrossFit athlete, but I've recently been looking into intermittent fasting.
Right.
Yeah, it seems like there's not a lot of science yet about it, and it's pretty hard to find. So I was wondering, maybe you tried it once before, maybe you know something about it, maybe not. And yeah, that's it.
Awesome. Intermittent fasting, very popular topic at the moment. And I think, it really comes down to personal preference, what works best with your lifestyle. For me personally, most days I don't really feel like eating breakfast, so it's natural for me to skip it and just wait until a little bit later when I actually feel hungry and just have a little bit of a shorter eating window. So intermittent fasting typically means you fast for 16 hours, so you don't eat for 16 hours, and then within an 8-hour window, you're eating food. So, in terms of science and health benefits, some people say that it increases your IGF-1 and, it helps with all kinds of hormones. But in my experience, the only benefit that I could see is, for weight loss, just like limiting your eating window so that you have a shorter amount of time to eat, so that you can enjoy big, satisfying meals in a shorter amount of time and, still feel full on lower calories. But to gain weight, a lot of people struggle because 8 hours is not enough for a lot of people, especially people with not a big appetite to get enough calories in. So for those people, I would not recommend doing intermittent fasting. It really depends on your lifestyle. If you don't like breakfast, skip it. If you have to have breakfast, have it. It's not going to have an impact on your health or performance or anything like that. It's just down to personal preference and what you can sustain with your current lifestyle. Okay, cool.
Yes? Okay.
I got 2 more questions.
2 more questions. Anybody here? Oh, they're in the back. There are also many questions live on Facebook, so we go first to this question.
All right.
All right, please.
Hi, I'm Boukje. I'm doing weight training and resistance training for a few weeks, 3 days a week, I think. And I still struggle a little with the question about protein. What do you recommend to be the amount of protein per kilogram, and how do you think about protein powders?
Okay, good question. So, like I said before, no one knows exactly how much protein we need to optimize muscle gains and that kind of stuff. Like what I recommend to all of our clients that we do personal training with is around 20% of your calories coming from protein, which is on the high side. But even with 20%, people are super worried and say it's so low, like they don't know how it's going to work. But yeah, like 20% is going to 100% meet all your needs for building muscle. I've built muscle on 10% of my calories coming from protein. So I don't really think it's an issue. It's more of a calorie issue. You have to get enough calories in to make sure that you're, putting on weight. And if you're doing resistance training, that weight will be in, hopefully more muscle than fat gain. So like per pound, I don't know, I recommend a lot of times between 0.6 to 0.8 grams per pound of body weight, and then per kilo. I don't know, I've been doing YouTube for so long, and most of my audience is American, so I forgot the kilogram stuff already, but it's not much. Just like 20% of your calories come from protein is more than enough, and even like 15, 10% should be good as well. And the second part of the question was protein powders. Is it necessary? Absolutely not. You can get all your protein from whole foods like grains and legumes, nuts, seeds, all that good stuff. But it can be super convenient if you're a busy person and you're on the go. It can be a super easy thing to just throw a scoop in there, just to boost your protein intake by 25 grams instantly. It's fine if you have a serious goal of either losing fat and retaining muscle mass or building a lot of muscle. Protein powders can come in handy, but it's definitely not necessary. Just make sure that they're organic and tested for heavy metals and all kinds of different bacteria and stuff. That's important. All right, so we're done with the Q&A, and before everyone leaves, can we get a quick Instagram story? Is that okay? Yeah. All right. So on 3, I'm gonna say 3, 2, 1, or 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, and then what should we say? Go vegan? It's a bit cheesy, but whatever. Let's do it. All right. On 3, go vegan. All right. 1 second. It's gonna be fun. Even if you're not vegan, say go vegan. It's okay. 1, 2, 3. Go vegan! All right, thanks guys. Thank you so much.